America instantly saved. Corinne Bukowski, yet again, instantly saved by America's vote.
And then there were 10. Our good friend Evan McKeel was sent home as America once again chose Team Gwen's Corinne Bukowski, who has become the Team Pharrell Slayer, beating out 2 of his contestants in recent weeks. Let's check in to see what Evan had to say about his departure.
No one should ever expect to go home, but no one should ever be surprised to go home. You know, the way it is now, we're at the point of the show where it's America's vote. So even if you sailed through under the coach's opinion, America could see you differently, or America could just have someone else that they really, really liked, and they could vote on so many things and for so many different reasons. So I think everybody, you know, we all knew going into this week, going into last week, every one of these live shows, we all knew anything could happen. You know, we really shouldn't have any kind of, you know, result, you know, picked out that we think is going to happen. Everybody should be prepared that they could be going home or could be the first name called. My favorite performance. Well, the great thing is that they were all so different. You know, I really feel like I did something different every time. You know, Overjoyed, I really did a lot vocally. You know, with This Is It, I really just had a lot of fun and went for stage presence. Even just a couple of days ago doing Smile. Well, that Smile was probably my favorite just because that was the most at home for me. And that was me doing the kind of performing and the kind of, you know, musicianship in a performance that I am used to doing, you know, at home and that I'm used to doing in the music that I write and record. So that was a chance for me to show some artistry and show a little bit more identity as an artist. And so I probably would have to go with this past performance of Smile. But I've loved every performance and have tried to put, you know, a little bit something different into each one.
Yeah, and kind of similar to that, were there any songs that you had in mind that you were hoping that you could perform on the show?
Yeah, I actually was really, really excited about my song choice for next week. I had already picked out Gravity by John Mayer, and we were going to do this really cool gospel arrangement, and I was going to play electric guitar, and we were just going to, like, kind of have a little jam session at the end of the song. It was going to be really cool. So that was one that I definitely had picked out that I was going to do next week for sure. You know, everybody's been asking me what the main thing I learned from the show and everything, and blah, blah, blah. I think the number one thing I learned doing the show was just how fulfilled I am doing music, singing on stage and performing for people who need to hear something through a song. And I think I've learned now more than ever that this is really what I feel that I was created for and what I feel called to do. And I'm really ready to sink my teeth into this even more than I was before the show. I think the show has really shown me that my direction needs to stay, you know, where I am right now, and I need to keep pouring my heart into music. In the end, it doesn't really matter where you end on the show. If you have the work ethic and the passion to keep making music after the show, the opportunities are going to come to you if you put in the work and if you have what it takes. You don't have to be the last one standing to get something amazing out of the process. And I've gotten so many amazing things out of the process, and I'm going to have so many opportunities after this now that I didn't have before, and that's so incredible.
I'm just wondering what the conversation with Maddie was like afterwards. Did you get a chance to talk to her, given that she's only team member surviving right now?
Yeah, I only had a second to go give her a hug. I was kind of on my way out to go shoot a couple videos for the YouTube channel. And when I found her, she was crying with our vocal coach. And I went over and hugged her, and I don't even think she was really totally speaking yet. So, it's hard. I'm sure it's hard for her because her teammates have been, her two teammates left the last 2 weeks. So she's going to be going to rehearsals by herself with Pharrell. She's going to be working on music a little more by herself. And I hope that some of the, the contestants on the other teams will rally around her and, help her out a little bit now that Mark and I aren't there to, to keep, doing all the stuff with her. I mean, I'd be lying if I said I was, expecting to go home. But, what we've all said this entire process is no one should expect to go through, but no one should assume they're going home. You should be level, and understand that with America's vote being the number one thing getting, the voting, you need to be ready for anything, and understand that even if you give the best performance of the night, or the best performance of your time on the show, or the best performance of your life, there's still a chance that you could go home. So I felt great about my performance this past Monday. I actually thought it was my best performance on the show, and I think it was the most true to who I am as an artist, and I was so glad I got to show that. I wasn't expecting necessarily to go home, but I knew that, anything was possible, and I was at peace with no matter what happened, and I was, I knew I was going to have joy no matter what happened, and so I'm not upset that it happened to me, because I think, maybe not everybody would, be as happy and have the same perspective that I do, so I'm glad that they get to stay and at least have another week.
You were an artist who stayed on Pharrell's team the whole time you were on The Voice. You were never stolen or anything like that. Looking back, do you think that gave you an advantage or actually a disadvantage, because you missed out on additional insight from another coach that maybe could have helped you grow or even possibly stick around longer?
Well, I still was able to get insight from other coaches in comments and in stuff they talked to me about backstage, so I still feel like I was able to benefit from being around the other coaches and hearing about the coaching that my friends got from them. But I think it was an advantage to stay with Pharrell, because I was able to build consistency with him, I was able to build a rapport with him, and I was able to just build with him from the bottom up and not have that train broken up. To me, there's no real advantage or disadvantage there. I think we're lucky to get to work with one of those coaches. If you get to work with two, I think that's an incredible blessing. There's only one steal left in the competition. Amy is the only person left that was a stolen artist. So, if you're looking at it that way, obviously the numbers would say that it's an advantage to stay with one coach. But, Mark and I both stayed with Pharrell the entire time, and were the last two eliminated contestants. So we don't really look at it that way about advantages and disadvantages. We just go out there and perform to the best of our ability and with as much passion as we have in our hearts, and whatever happens after that is completely out of our control. Everybody this year is really performing at such a high level, and I think even this past week was really kind of a breakout moment for everybody. I think everybody had their best performance this week, better than they've performed the whole season. So, obviously, all bets are off at this point with America's vote. A lot of people are telling me I'm getting a lot of messages, people telling me they didn't expect me to be going home. For all we know, next week, someone who's considered a front runner could be going home. There's really no way of knowing, because, America's vote can change every week, and it involves so many different people with different opinions. So I think we can look from a musical standpoint at who might be a front runner, but if America doesn't see it that way, then, it doesn't mean anything. So I think it's really hard to predict what's going to happen. And if you look back at the other seasons of The Voice, it's been that way. It's not always what people write about, not always what people expect. All I can say is that the level of musicianship and the level of singing quality and performance quality and the quality of the people that are on this year is just higher than I think I've ever seen on any of these shows. And everybody is just so gifted. And I have been, honored to share the stage with them every week.